The contributions of religion to modern life are most evident when you remove religion from modern life, at which point virtue tends to fall out through the bottom floor. And then you end up with so-called rights without any responsibility, so-called rights without virtues or duties. You end up with a libertine population that feels that their signal achievement is to express themselves without regard to anybody else. And that inevitably leads to more government overreach, actually. One of the things that I think secular people don't appreciate about religious people is how much we actually think about our religion. And there tends to be this view in secular society that religious people never struggle with faith, never struggle with God, never struggle with how to act out their faith in their daily life, never struggle over principle. It's a bunch of hooey. I would say religious people struggle with their faith a lot more than secular people struggle with their secularism. That's for sure. And so, I mean, not to start quoting, the Bible at you, but the fact is that the term Israel, it comes from the Hebrew Yisrael, literally means struggle with God, right? When Jacob is renamed Israel after he wrestles with the angel, then the idea is that Jacob becomes Israel, and the house of Israel and all of us becomes Israel because he has struggled with God and overcome. Faith is about that struggle with basic principles. Is there justice in the universe? How much of God's plan can I understand or deal with? This is what it means to be a faithful person. To be a faithful person means to have faith that at the end of the day, God knows better than you do. But that doesn't mean you don't struggle with that. Of course you struggle with that. And you evolve and become more nuanced in your thinking sometimes. And other times you realize that ancient truths are just true, and there's nothing to argue with there. As far as how it's influenced sort of my political thinking, I think there are certain fundamental principles that lie at the heart of a natural law philosophy that undergirds the founding that have roots in Sinaitic tradition, in Judeo-Christian tradition. I talk about this a lot in The Right Side of History. My new book is basically about this, and it discusses contributions of Judeo-Christian values to secular worldviews. Things like free will, things like the universe is not a chaotic mishmash of crap happening, but it's actually an ordered place, and there is an orderer of that ordered place, and it is your duty in order to investigate God, to investigate the universe around you. I mean, this leads to a lot of developments in science and the philosophy that science is a way of investigating God, which is why you have Thomas Aquinas writing full-on summae, which are encyclopedias about the knowledge that we have about the world. The sort of false history that's been taught that science was dead until 1790 is just not true. The false history that we've been taught that human rights were dead until 1790 is not true. It's much more of a continuum than anything else. And the contributions of religion to modern life are most evident when you remove religion from modern life, at which point virtue tends to fall out through the bottom floor. And then you end up with so-called rights without any responsibility, so-called rights without virtues or duties. You end up with a libertine population that feels that their signal achievement is to express themselves without regard to anybody else. And that inevitably leads to more government overreach, actually.